Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/prorevenge. So sit back, relax and enjoy some Reddit stories. Demand proof of illness? Hope you have eye bleach. I had a boss one time who was such a control freak that she demanded to know specifically why I was calling out sick, wildly illegal where I live, one day. And for reference, I'm typically the guy who never gets sick, so it wasn't an attendance issue. I told her I think I had food poisoning, turned out to be true, and actually wrote a ULPT based off this story a while back. And she kept pressing me as to explain what my symptoms were and why I couldn't make it in, all via text. I had finally had enough and was like, look, I'm not physically capable of working today, and you are not allowed to ask me personal questions about illness and medical history. She threatened me with a write-up if I couldn't specifically explain/prove why I couldn't make it into work. This is where the pro-revenge comes in. I was about to send her something horrific that she could not unsee, and she wouldn't be able to do anything about it, since she technically asked for it. Being that I was living in the bathroom for more than 2 days, this inquiry was day 1, and had aggressive diarrhea every 15 to 30 minutes, and the worst abdominal pain I've ever experienced, I lost my head, and took a pretty disturbing picture of me painting the bowl brown right before I flushed, and sent it to her. No joke, it looked like I power washed the inside of the toilet and built an island in the middle of the water. It honestly looked like a volcano had erupted. I had no idea your bowels could contain so much. This is happening every 15 to 30 minutes, and I haven't been able to leave the bathroom for the last 6 hours. Here is your proof. Check the timestamp. I also sent a screenshot of the timestamp. I'll let you know as soon as I can if I'll be in tomorrow. So after 3 days off, I show up for my first shift, sleep deprived and sore from sleeping in my bathtub or on the floor for 2.5 days. Jerk not having any of it, but I was finally through the worst. She immediately escorts me into her office, where regional HR rep is waiting for me, and we all sit down. He has paperwork in front of him and is discussing the incident with me, and gets me to acknowledge what I did, and that sending unprovoked and offensive content to co-workers constitutes harassment and blah blah blah. Right before he asks me to sign a final write-up. If you do something like this again, you're fired. Before signing, I asked him, did she tell you why I sent this? He was dumbfounded and says this isn't really excusable, and basically handed me a screenshot printout of the text messages where this witch deleted everything in the exchange in her phone but me saying sorry but I need to take a sick day today, and the picture. I laughed and handed him my phone and said here is the full exchange. He asked me to leave and give them a few minutes. About 10 minutes later, he calls me in, by myself, and explained what I already knew, that she was the harasser and that she had aggressively violated privacy laws and would be dealt with, and to call him if anything like this ever happens again. I found out from one of the assistant managers that she ended up getting a final written notice and was super close to being fired, and it prevented her from getting a big promotion that she was being looked at for. So if you ever come across a douchebag boss who wants to play doctor and question your sick leave, send them pics like that and they'll either shut up or give you lawsuit material. I tried to keep it less graphic, but that was definitely very, very graphic. How I ended up with my boss's job. I was working for an advertising agency, a pretty big one, and I had an unethical manager. Well, when I started out, I had a manager who was one of the most unethical managers I've ever dealt with. He'd order his sales reps to do things that would increase his bonuses, which are based on margins. Example, Say a client decided to buy product XYZ and their spend was $2,000 a month. He would want the agent to put up products ABC and keep the spend at $2,000 even though the client didn't agree to that. Fact is, the clients generally wouldn't notice, but if they did, it could cost you your job. I was the guy that refused his demands. He would tell me to cheat the client and I would refuse. He would get mad, I wouldn't care. This went on for quite a while. Now, there is something I don't tell people very often. I live in a one-party consent state, which means so long as I'm aware a conversation is being recorded, I can record it without informing the other party. I had just upsold my largest client, making him even larger, but I didn't sell the products my boss wanted me to sell. He demanded I switch things around. I refused. I told him I sold the client XYZ, that's what we agreed to. I'm not going to change that without the customer's permission. His exact words were, "Screw the customer, this is your largest client. I need him on ABC or I'm not going to make my number." I'm sorry, but you and I both know ABC isn't right for this client, and that's why he didn't buy it. "You're fired. If you can't follow instructions, you're fired." After confirming he was dead serious, I said, "If you do that, I'll have your job by the end of the month." I went home. I didn't think he'd go through with it. Sure as heck, next morning I'm locked out of all our systems. I call tech support and get told I've been fired. So, who do I call? I call our regional vice president and tell him I have several recordings I think he should listen to. Remember, my boss ordering me to do unethical things wasn't uncommon. So, I meet up with my regional vice president and play 6 different recordings that I had saved showing my manager was pushing his agents to break the law. To which my regional vice president leaned back in his chair and let out a sigh knowing he'd have to fire my manager. Having a sales manager that is forcing his reps to break the law is just bad business. At which point I asked for my job back. He agreed that I would get my job back and asked me to take the week off and call him on Monday. He told me he'd talk to payroll and make sure I got paid for this week as well. FYI, he fulfilled all of his promises with me, although I missed a payday, but got back pay later, so I was fine with that. That Monday, I come into our Monday morning meeting, in which my regional vice president was there. He informed the entire team that my boss had been fired and why. He also mentioned that if anyone wanted to apply for his job, there was now an opening. So, I applied for it, and after 3 rounds of interview got my promotion. Sure as heck I was right, and did have my boss's job by the end of the month. It was glorious the first day walking into his office and sitting in his nice big comfy chair. That is like the perfect thing to happen. If you have all of that dirt on him and you don't like him and he fires you, like, you're just gonna win every single time. Construction revenge 10 years in the making, and why I will never have another business partner. A little over 10 years ago, when I was a young carpenter, I met a guy who I'll call Chad, because screw Chad. Chad was a new hire by the company I was working for, and became my helper. We got along famously, even though he was 10 years older than me. He didn't mind working under a 23-year-old carpenter as an apprentice. Chad and I worked together for 6 months, when he brought up the idea of starting a business together. He figured between the two of us, we could easily run a crew and build houses. After talking it over with my pregnant girlfriend, now wife, we decided that it would be better for me to be an employee, but still a 50% partner for tax reasons, and insurance purposes. Chad said that was fine with him, so we started laying out who was to take care of certain aspects of the business. Chad was to be the guy to find work, as I look, and still do, way younger than I am, and it doesn't instill a lot of confidence in the client to think their framer is 16. Chad was also to take care of payroll, insurance, and any other financial factions. My duties were simple: staff and run the crew, and keep on budget, something that came easy to me. I was to be paid an hourly wage, as well as 50% of the profit after all business expenses. I never took my profit draw, as I rolled it back into growing the company. Things were great for about 6 months. The crew was working well together, we had a few houses under our belt, and contract for a 10,000 square foot custom house with multiple outbuildings. Things were great. So Chad has never built a foundation, and we usually hired a crew to put the foundation in for us. And like I said, Chad has never built one, and I personally hate concrete work. We couldn't get our normal foundation crew in, so I stepped up and said screw it, I'll do it myself. The company we were building for is one of the best custom home builders around, and doing a good job on this house could mean that we wouldn't have to pound the pavement looking for work. Work would be given to us. Perfect arraignment. Until it wasn't. Chad started spending money like it was going out of style. He sold his 2,500 Chevy pickup and bought a new Jeep Wrangler. He had the Jeep for about 6 months before he sunk it in water while 4x4ing, and it caught on fire mysteriously a few days after. He received the insurance payout and bought a brand new Dodge 2500 Power Wagon, which he, in short order, sunk in water within a few weeks. I never noticed the red flags, as Chad and I rarely spoke face to face. He was the business side, I was the get stuff done side. I finished the foundation and picked up the check from the builder. The builder said that we overbilled him by 25%, but he was happy with the work I did, but not to overbill again, as he doesn't like overpaying, as there may not be any money left at the end of the build. I apologized and asked him to cancel the check and issue one for the work actually completed. He agreed to and said, "I'm so happy to have honest people working for me." I usually don't pick up the checks, nor did I ever really look at the books, as it wasn't in the scope of my responsibilities. This prompted me to log into our corporate account and see that we are so far in the red that we couldn't afford to buy a red pen, let alone cover payroll. I showed up at Chad's house and tore a strip off of him. He apologized and promised to top up the account with his personal profit draw money. I go into work Monday and find the locks on our tool bin had been changed. My name removed from all accounts, and a letter taped to the tool bin stating I was dismissed from my duties for an undisclosed reason. I was freaking furious. I was not aware that as a business partner I could be fired. I found another job quite quickly and tried my best to put it behind me. That's when I found out where the money was going, and that Chad had been slandering my name around town, blaming me for the missing money, as well as a bunch of egregious statements about my work ethic, trade skills, mental stability, and home life. Now, I fastidiously tracked all of our interactions with a simple journal, and had backups of the transactions of our business account. I also happen to have backups of all of our texts, voicemails, and pictures of everything. This is the revenge part. I took the evidence to my father's late lawyer friend, who started a fraud/embezzlement investigation through the CRA, the Canadian Revenue Agencies, or Canada's IRS, and called the insurance provider to make sure they were being paid. They had never received anything. I called the builder whom we were paying for and explained what was happening. He told me that Chad had essentially stolen around $30,000 for payment of work not completed, and had broken into their office and stolen another $15,000, replacement value of equipment and tools. I did what anyone would do. I called the police. Police said they couldn't help me, and said it was a civil case, and the builder said he wasn't going to sue, as Chad had no money and it wasn't worth the headache. So I called his auto insurance company, sent them all of the pictures of his sunk vehicles, texts about them, and a short video he sent of him lighting the Jeep on fire. Insurance company filed charges against Chad, and won. Chad is on the hook for around $130,000. I've spent the last 9.5 years telling anyone who'd listen about Chad, and I have had him essentially blackballed from the carpentry industry around here, because it's not slander if it's true. I have also looked up his criminal history, as it's public domain, every 3 months or so, and make a point of showing up at his court proceedings or offering myself as a character reference for the Crown, the prosecution. So I've gone out of my way to remind Chad that he can't screw me over without repercussions. And no, this doesn't end here. Years have passed and I'm still ticked off. I receive a call from a guy offering me a job. It was the builder that Chad screwed over, not remembering that we know each other. After I explained who I was, and this bridge is burnt due to Chad, he still offers me the job. Medical, dental, company van, gas card, corporate credit card. I accept his offer. First order of business, finds another way to mess with Chad. Through the grapevine, I find where Chad is living and working. New boss calls the company Chad is working for, and Chad is summarily fired. I get in touch with Chad's landlord, explain how he operates, and Chad is evicted for unpaid rent. He was apparently a couple months behind. I also managed to get his girlfriend's phone number and call her, and explain what this guy does to people, and his extensive criminal history, including but no limited to fraud, identity theft, insurance fraud, his many assaults, and his wanted picture published in the paper. Turns out she is the owner of his truck, primary operator, but he pays the insurance. He cannot insure a vehicle until he pays off what he owes for the fraud. She asks me what she should do. I say that I'll take care of it. I call the insurance provider, explain what is going on, for them to tell me he doesn't even have a license anymore. They void the insurance on his or his girlfriend's truck after speaking to her, and set up a sting with the police. I personally get to be involved as I know what's going on. So I sit and wait for the day it goes down. I roll up behind the unmarked police cruiser and quickly explain who I am and what my plans are. The police are thinking they are just waiting to pull him over for driving without a license and no insurance. I said I'm going to call him immediately as soon as I see him. So he comes cruising out and I make the call. He actually picked up the phone to call me a bunch of names, and the N-word. I'm as white as the fresh fallen snow, and promptly gets pulled over. Police issue a ticket for reckless driving because no seatbelt, no license, and using a handheld device. During this, the girlfriend pulls up and proceeds to give consent to search her truck. In the truck, they find multiple IDs, stolen credit cards, a couple ATM skimmer machines, and a fake police badge. He was arrested on the spot. Revenge over, right? Nope. Police then asked to search the residence he was living at. He moved into the girlfriend's house after I had him evicted from his own place. In the garage, they find a vast collection of stolen tools, a lot of which belonged to the builder I was working for, from when he broke into their office, and they were all stupidly still labeled with the company's inventory control stickers. This brought on more charges, and he was remanded to police custody until his trial date. Well, justice is sometimes slow here in Canada, and his trial date was at the time 17 months into the future. Well, yesterday was his trial date, so my boss, who Chad ripped off, Chad's ex-girlfriend and I attended the hearing, just to see the man squirm. His judgment was 8 years in jail, after being granted time and a half for time served, a $100,000 fine, 1,000 hours community services after release, and no possibility of parole. I got to watch him be taken away in chains twice. Never underestimate the fury of a quiet man. Oh, and screw Chad. I can't tell if that was just a huge build-up, or every single bit of that was just a tiny bit added to the revenge, and I loved it. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.